Good afternoon and welcome to the 2020 Economic and Recession Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me on this Wednesday, Hump Day, August 26, 2020. Well, Wall Street continues to extend this winning streak, making it 4 straight days as the Dow Jones is currently up about 80 points now as it heads into the home stretch with 1 hour to go. But while Wall Street is winning, Main Street continues to suffer. According to CNBC.com today, U.S. core capital goods orders slowed in July from prior month. Overall durable goods fell 11.2% in July, and new orders for key U.S.-made capital goods slowed in July, suggesting that the rebound in business investment could become more gradual amid uncertainty among the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it appears that this recovery, V-shaped recovery, the dreams and hopes of that is dashed. It appears that manufacturing is suffering both internal, our U.S. made products, and our exports that we're exporting out. Both have slowed down. Orders for non-defense capital goods, excluding aircraft, that increased only modestly, 1.9% last month, the Commerce Department said today. But economists had predicted that such orders would climb by over 3%. Well, they didn't get their wishes. And now the Federal Reserve is meeting, as you know, in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, a virtual meeting they're having, another kind of vacation for them. And they said in the Market Watch today that it's too soon to decide what more the Federal Reserve has to do to help stimulate the economy beyond the end of this year. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has said that he will be doing whatever it takes to keep Wall Street and to keep this economy up. He's already cut interest rates to zero and is now buying $120 billion per month of Treasury securities and mortgage-related securities. As a matter of fact, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, two of the largest mortgage-backed lenders in the United States, have said today that they're extending their mortgage forbearance to the end of December now to help make up for the shortfall. A lot of renters and landlords in big cities like San Francisco, LA, New York, Chicago, DC have decided not to increase the rental prices for this coming lease renewal season because of the situation that a lot of people are out of jobs and a lot of people just don't have the money to expend on discretionary income to spend on things other than rent, utilities, food, and the basic necessities of life. And plus, the landlords just want to keep warm bodies in the building because during this crisis, everybody doesn't know if they're going to have a job the next day or not, or next week or not. And now, the Federal Reserve is meeting again in September to decide whether or not to keep interest rates low until the economy regains its footing. We all know that they cannot expect a rate hike. The markets don't expect a rate hike, and Main Street does not expect a interest rate hike. And so it is my prediction that they will keep rates near zero or even go into negative rates just to keep up this facade of economy that we're living in now. As a matter of fact, this is how much money is spent. If this is from covidmoneytracker.org, covidmoneytracker.org. This is how much money is spent on coronavirus bills and taxes so far by Congress as they're on vacation right now until Labor Day. Okay, over $600 million was spent on administrative actions. Now, you know what that means. Taking a conference, having conferences in these various hotels and cities, just spending a lot of money on wasteful stuff. Legislative actions. Over $2.3 trillion was spent talking about the first coronavirus bill and now the second coronavirus bill and the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. Okay, we're adding it up. Federal Reserve actions. Over $2.3 trillion was spent in stimulus by the Federal Reserve already. And that's not counting the second stimulus bill or the business loans, that the countless businesses who receive loans who don't need it. So let's add up some of these costs here, and you can see the ticker on the screen. That's our current debt levels and different things that we have going on there. You can look at that at your leisure. So we have 2.3 million, plus 2.3 million plus 600 million. So we'll add that in, 600 million. Okay, so we're looking at over $10 trillion already spent on this coronavirus response. More money has been spent, and that's just on the fiscal side. So we're not counting the money that's spent on these testing, on school closures, on business closures, on other things. So all in all, let's track the money. Okay, so that's $10 trillion in legislative action that is spent. The Federal Reserve has spent $7 trillion in propping up this economy. And also, don't forget, they've been propping up the banks too. Bank of America, Chase, Citibank, all of that is included because remember, the banks were failing before this sickness happened. They were given the repo markets in September 2019, before this sickness happened, $80 billion a week to help support their operations. And I still feel like the banks are going to fail anyway, but that's coming later on down in the road. Remember, we're only in the third inning of this major collapse that we're seeing here. So, the Federal Reserve spent $2.1 trillion in liquidity measures. This is noted as variety of measures intended to stabilize short-term funding strains that appeared in March 2020, including ensuring foreign markets have sufficient access to U.S. dollars, which, by the way, the dollar index is continuing to fall as we speak. The Federal Reserve, asset purchases, $2.1 trillion. A new round of quantitative easing to support the economy and increase the money supply by purchasing additional long-term U.S. Treasury securities and mortgage-backed securities. They also spent $2.7 trillion on loan programs. And this was a variety of new and reactivated facilities that provide liquidity and credit support to financial markets. That was your PPP, Paycheck Protection Program loans, and your small business loans from the SBA of up to $1,000 to $10,000 that a lot of people received as well. So all in all, that equals $7 trillion. That's the actions taken by the Federal Reserve since the COVID-19 crisis began February 26, 2020. Wow, that's exactly, let me see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's exactly 7 months ago. So we spent $7 trillion, approximately $1 trillion a month by the Federal Reserve. Now, legislative action includes $3.8 trillion of the pie. This is the fiscal support contained in 6 laws passed by Congress to address this whole COVID-19 debacle. So now, that includes $1.6 trillion in loan programs by the SBA, $789 billion tax changes to provide financial relief to businesses and households. That's what your President Trump did, the paycheck rollback of the payroll tax and the Social Security tax. Income support, $425 billion. That was your stimulus checks. And your $1,200 checks the first time that some people got, and your unemployment benefits, and your SNAP money and WIC to purchase food for some people. Health spending, $302 billion spent on testing, trying to get this coronavirus test accurate. And by the way, with some people, like not just sports players, but other people have gotten false positives from that test. But that's another story. Direct payments, $292 billion, money sent directly to households. And then the tax policy, $401 billion, changes in IRS rules to provide immediate short-term relief to taxpayers. That's when they extended the deadline to file taxes, and also claiming at least initially that the money that we got, that some people got for stimulus, the $1,200 or $500 dependents, will not be taxable in next year's tax thing, but that's yet to be seen. So, how can we have a booming economy and a booming stock market when U.S. durable goods are falling by more than 2%? We have over 60 million people unemployed, and we have all these natural disasters coming. My prayers go out to those in Louisiana and southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas as they deal with Hurricane Laura, and also the wildfires out in California and Arizona and everywhere else. So how can we have a booming economy when we're spending all of this money just to survive? Where other countries like China are exporting more goods than us. China is the number one economy, the world's superpower right now as we speak, as they export and import more goods to us. They have more money than us. They have more gold and silver than we have in reserve. All we have is a bunch of debt. As you see up top of the screen, you can look how much debt we have right now and how much money the U.S. median income is compared to the debt ratio that we have right now. And so this is going to take at least 10 to 12 years to recover from this. And the Federal Reserve Chairman agrees. One of the Federal Reserve members agrees with me as well, as she says that it's going to take 10 years 10 to 12 years to be able to get out of this thing. Federal Reserve person Esther George says she sees building of a double dip recession from pressure building for a double dip recession. She's Kansas City Federal Reserve President Esther George. She told us today on CNBC that the double dip recession is going to happen whether or not we get a vaccine for this whole sickness. And she said inflation is going to run rampant in these cities, towns, counties, and we see that as well. And so what I'm suggesting to you today is that I encourage you to keep your debt to a minimum at this time. Continue to prep. Continue to grab. The most important thing now is gardening new skills. Whether you do gardening, knitting, sewing, whether you do fishing, camping, hunting, those are going to become the new viable skills, not paper dollars. Paper dollars are going to be going out of style as we go into this new economy, this new digital, new world order economy that they've been talking about for years. But now we're seeing it firsthand what that means. And so as inflation and hyperinflation runs rampant eventually in food and energy prices and gas prices and everything else, we need to become more self-sufficient, less dependent on the system. And so that's my message for you today. If you're in an urban environment, if you're in a rural environment or a suburban environment, you need to become more self-sufficient because they're already planning. The rich folks already have their plan in place. That's so they can go on vacation. The congressmen and congresswomen, they're set for life. They're millionaires, multimillionaires. If the dollar crashes, it's not going to affect them because they can change their money up into different currencies, whatever, the yuan, they can change it to the lira, whatever, pesos, whatever they have their own private islands and things. So they have bunkers, underground bunkers. But for you and I, we can't afford to build an underground bunker. We don't have resources, but what we can do is we can stick together and we can use the resources in our neighborhood and community to make a difference off the grid. So we don't have to be dependent upon a system that's designed to make us less than, to make us pay more than what we get out of the system. And this is really ironic that in America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, that we have to suffer and pay more than what we get out of. But this is what we brought upon ourselves because there was a lot of greed, and a lot of it has to do with greed and stealing money that a lot of people stole in the last 10 to 12 years since 2008 that we haven't recovered from. Like you said, a lot of comments below, I read your comments. Exactly. We haven't recovered from 2008, and now we're adding more fuel to the fire. And so get prepared, stay prepared, be blessed. Please subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends and neighbors too as well. And I will continue to try to provide to you with the latest 100% unadulterated truth. Thank you very much. Have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you later on this week.